Good. Okay. Okay, this morning I want to start about counterexamples. Earlier, several of you mentioned counterexamples. I asked you to delay that and just kind of ignore them for the moment, just to keep things simple. And now we want to dive in and really deal with counterexamples. And so I want you all to do this kind of as a group. I've got the wrong sheets up here. Excuse me. So I want you to continue using the same quality that you used yesterday. This is just to learn from. Then you can apply it to any quality. And examine counterexamples. Where do you have counterexamples? There are counterexamples to everything. No matter how kind you are, there'll be sometimes when you're mean or abrasive or unfeeling or you mess up. That's what my kids say. You mess up. I like that better than mistake or something like that. And mess up is just, well, I messed up. It's a little milder somehow. It has milder connotations. So where and how do you represent times when you messed up? And I mean where and how in your personal space, just as you had your positive examples in a particular location, maybe simultaneous, maybe sequential. How do you have your counterexamples? Where are they? How do you have them represented? And in particular, are they integrated or separate? They could be a part of the collage, kind of speckled in. They could be part of a sequential sequence of images. Every once in a while, a counterexample comes up. That I call integrated. Or they might be separate. They might be in another location in space. They might be adjacent, but in a separate location, or they could be farther apart. Or finally, they could be in a different modality. So you might have a set of visual representations of sequential, as Anne had, and then there might be a voice somewhere else. Well, no, you're not, something like that, and making you think of times when you didn't have that quality. And what modalities or submodalities are involved in this. You might have images of counterexamples that were integrated into your database, but they might be different in the sense that different submodalities. They might be flat instead of 3D. They may be black and white instead of color. They might be smaller or in some way diminished. That's often a good idea. So I want you to explore how do you have your counterexamples. So take a few minutes, just kind of close your eyes and think about that quality, and how do you have counterexamples to it? And don't do anything about them yet. This is just information gathering, because counterexamples is one of the very few situations in which there can be some unpleasantness. Mostly this seminar is pretty pleasant for most people, but counterexamples can be a problem. So don't do anything yet. I'll teach you how to do it very carefully. Is there anybody who needs more time? Okay, a little more time then. You have enough time now, Jim? Okay? Okay, great. Now, what I'd like you to do is categorize yourself in the sense of, do you have your counterexamples integrated somehow in your database in the same location? Are they in the same modality, let's say visual, but in a different location, so either side by side or off to the side or behind or something like that? Or do you have them in a different modality? So the examples could be auditory, but your counterexamples could be visual, and they would be in somehow different locations. Can you all put yourself in one of these three categories? Is there anyone who can't? Okay, great. Now, what I want to do is take this very systematically and stepwise, and first work with these folks here, and then with these, and then with these. And we have a fairly small group, so there might be somebody, one of these may not be represented. And in particular, I'd like to work with someone who has not taken the seminar before, but have their counterexamples in the same modality in the same location. Is there someone in that department? Okay, want to come up again, Jim? Now, as I recall, you had your samples
over here,
your timeline and so on. And, oh, sorry. Memory. Always seem to have too much or too little. Okay, so you have your examples on your timeline, right?
Right.
Okay, off to your left somehow like that.
Like this.
Okay, and how do you represent counterexamples?
There are also pictures on this timeline, but they are, and they're still in color, but they're faded and they're fuzzy.
Faded and fuzzy. Okay, great. Are they the same size?
I think so.
Okay, great. Now, here's the first key principle in this. When you represent counterexamples, you want to represent them less robustly than your examples. So you want to have them fuzzier or dimmer or smaller, somehow less attention getting. You want them to be there, but you want them to have less attention. Okay, so that's great.
Yeah.
Now, imagine that you took all your roughly what percent of counterexamples do you think you have? Right?
Oh, geez, I don't know.
For every 10 examples, how many counterexamples? Roughly, just some sense of that.
Maybe 10%.
Okay, that's a pretty good proportion. 10% gives you good information. And what would happen if you had 50% counterexamples? Then you really wouldn't know whether you had that quality or not. It'd be more ambiguous. We'll get to that situation later. Okay. Now imagine that you, just for temporarily, you took out all the counterexamples, set them aside somewhere.
Okay.
Put them in a safe place.
Okay.
And then compare what it's like to have no counterexamples as compared to having those counterexamples.
Probably I would be more consistent than I am about whatever, this quality.
Okay. Now that's a guess about the future.
Right.
And
yes,
if you just
that's
compare,
right, yeah.
If you just compare the two right now, what is it like in terms of the solidity, or how much you feel it's definitely a part of you?
Actually, without the counterexamples, it feels stronger.
Without the counterexamples, it feels stronger.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, check, put them back in and check again.
Okay.
Because there are actually two things going on here, and I want you to distinguish between the two.
Well, the thing about having the counterexamples is that there is some contrast.
Yes, contrast.
Right.
So that it heightens the examples by the contrast.
Right, exactly, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And how does that affect your sense of solidity or durability? I'm assuming that some of you are also playing with this.
It's sort of motivating. Let's see. I didn't answer your question.
Take them out and put them in again. Just often, if you do a contrast fairly quickly, you can notice more.
You know, when I do it several times back and forth real quickly, the times when I'm doing it seem to be more intense.
Doing what?
Having the quality or the that part of my self-concept. So let's see. Having them there actually does make the quality more intense.
Having them there, so that's a change of opinion, right? Because earlier you said it was better without them.
Yeah, but I wasn't so tuned into the contrast. There's something about the contrast, which is...
the contrast between the examples and the counterexamples.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you say what that contrast does? You said something about being more motivating.
It is more motivating in the sense that the examples, the difference between the two sort of motivates me to do this, to have fewer counterexamples, I guess.
Okay, yeah. Okay, this is a tricky thing because there are two things going on here. One is the purity of the database. And this kind of surprised me when I first discovered this, when I was first modeling this. You would think that a pure database would be better because you have nothing but examples of doing this quality. And it is purer if there are no counterexamples. If you have only examples, it's purer. But we have another thing we call a reality strategy. And the reality strategy goes like this. Is it real to have perfection? Is it possible that you are only kind and never unkind? So it's more real to have a few counterexamples in there. And since it's more real, it's more compelling and it's more convincing. So there's two things going on here. There's the purity of the database and the convincingness of the database. Right. And then there's also this thing of the contrast between the times when you did the quality, which is in accordance with your values, right. The times when you didn't do it, which is in opposition to your values, and the contrast between those two, it really gives you a thing of, well, let's see if we can try a little harder or something like that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay? Great. Okay, that's all I want to do with you.
Right.
Do you folks have any questions of him? Okay, great. Oh.
They're on the timeline but they're still in color, but the colors are muted, and and the representations are fuzzier.
It's like out of focus?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And they still are now, even though you've concentrated on them.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Anything else? Okay, great. Thanks a lot. Let's leave that up here because I'm going to get somebody else up here right away, I hope. Okay. Now, when I first discovered this, I thought, well, this isn't quite what I expected, which was a good reason for me to think that I was discovering what was there and not just my preconceptions. But when I came to think about it, it's a little like putting a little bit of impurity into iron and making steel. It's tougher when you have a little bit of impurity in it. Now, if you had too much impurity, then it would not be good. But just a little bit of impurity, few counterexamples actually strengthen the quality of self-concept because it makes it more real. Now, what I'd like next is someone who has the same modality but a different location. Again, you got one up? Great. Come on up, Rick. Get wired up here. So tell me about your database and where your counterexamples are and what they're like.
Okay, my database is, I've got a summary picture, and then around the frame I've got the other examples.
Okay, great. So the summary's in the middle, and then around this you have examples.
Right, and
Okay.
I can select one, and it'll kind of zoom in to fill the frame.
So it'll go into the fill frame. Okay, super. And where are your counterexamples?
Counterexamples are down.
Maybe I better move.
Yeah,
I
right.
don't like to mess with people's counterexamples.
are down.
Okay, they're down over here.
Down there.
Okay.
And they're still.
Okay.
And I tried associating into them, and it was really hard to do.
Good. I don't think it's a good idea to associate into them.
And they're small, and they're color, but they're kind of dim.
Okay. So they're dim.
Mm-hmm.
They're in color, but they're still. Now, when you emphasize still, are these moving up here?
Yeah, these are movies.
Okay, great.
Well, they're still in the frame, but when I pull them down, they're a
when
movie.
you put it into that center thing, then they become
They're
movies.
a movie, yeah.
Great. And down here, they're still and dim, and but they still had some color, right? Is that
Right. They had some color.
Some
yes.
color. Okay, great. Now, here's what I want you to do, and I want you to do it very carefully and cautiously, and don't do anything until I've finished.
Okay.
Okay? I'd like you to take one of these counterexamples down here, and keeping it dim and how it is now, relatively de-emphasized, gently bring it up somewhere and put it somewhere in that border around. You know, push a couple aside and just slip it in somewhere. And do it very cautiously. And if anything goes a little haywire, then just back up immediately, okay?
Well, it's interesting. My heart is pounding a little more.
Okay.
Aside from that.
Okay.
Okay.
Go ahead.
It's there.
Oh, it's there already. Okay. And now that it's there, what is that like?
Okay, and the summary. Summary picture is still good. So,
Great. That's fine.
Yeah.
I would hope that would be the case.
Yeah.
And is it okay to have that little counterexample there?
Yeah.
And how is it different from not having one there?
Well, it actually seems to take away a little bit from the intensity of the conviction.
Okay. Takes away a little bit from the conviction of having that quality.
Yeah, that's.
Do you have any sense of the contrast that Jim experienced? Different people are different, and different people have different experiences.
When I took them away, when you were doing that with Jim, when I sent them off,
Okay.
then the summary picture got dim, and the tonality of my voice and the other voice really it dropped incredibly.
Okay, so when your counterexamples were completely in a different, way off in a different location,
Right.
then that dimmed the intensity of the.
Yeah, it was like the movie dimmed, and the excitement that was in the voices.
Okay. So it diminished.
Dimmed,
overall.
diminished.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I get a little bit of that when I've got this up here in this.
Okay. Okay. Now, so we got three situations here. The one that you said where you took the counterexamples and put them very far away, and that dimmed down the intensity of your quality. And then we had the situation where you had the quality up here without any counterexamples, and the counterexamples are down here. In comparison to that, how would you rate the situation with having one counterexample in there? You said it dimmed the summary picture a little?
When I associate into it.
Into which?
Into the summary movie.
Okay.
It's like there's like it's hanging over my head. It is literally.
Maybe you should take it and put it down below.
Maybe I should do that. Okay.
Try it down below on the side.
Okay, I'll put it down on the bottom right of the frame.
Okay.
About where they were, relatively.
Okay. So the same general relationship as down here, but closer, right?
Okay.
Part of it.
Oh, that's better.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, when you say it's better than having it up over your head, right?
It's back to where it was, maybe even a little more convincing.
Okay, so now it's a little more convincing than where you started.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So having it down at the bottom makes a big difference for you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's like it's there and it's not as important. I mean, it's okay.
It's still there.
Yep.
Well, that's what we want. We want it to be there, but less important.
Okay.
Now, try taking one more counterexample from down here.
Okay.
You got a little stash down here, right?
Yeah, these are contexts, really. They're not specific instances. They're like in political discussions, or they're particular contexts where these are counterexamples.
Sure.
Okay.
That's
so
often the case.
I'll
Just
pull
pick
up.
one of those.
I'll pick another one. Okay.
And put it on the bottom somewhere too.
Okay.
I mean, you can always experiment, but I'd put one on the bottom of the side.
Got it.
Okay. And how is that to have two of them in there? How many do you have around the outside?
I have about 18.
18, okay. So two might be about right.
Somewhere in there.
Might be a good percentage.
Yeah, it dropped back a little bit. It's almost like I really know I am a person with that quality, and it's okay not to have it in those contexts.
Okay. All right. Good. And you use the word and I think that's often important to kind of sensitize your brain to and, because a lot of people will say but, and but separates. But indicates somehow some kind of separation that's internal. When you use and, it's like seeing them all together, this and this, and they're all together. So that's just another little thing you can sensitize your ears to.
Okay.
Okay, great. And so now with the couple in there,
okay,
how would you rate the strength of your of this quality as being a part of you in comparison with where it started?
Well, it's not not quite as intense, but it's actually more solid, I think.
Yeah. There's these two things going on. if you have this pure database, it looks wonderful. It's wonderful. But often people say it's a little floaty, or it's kind of like Pollyanna, or it's not real, or it's not, it's just not the way the world is, right? And so it's actually a little more solid to have those in there. And it's a little hard to tease those apart sometimes, because sometimes people will say, oh, it's ruined, or something like that. Well, the purity is ruined, but the reality is enhanced.
Yeah.
Does that make sense, too?
Yeah, that's what it feels like.
Great. Okay. Do you have any questions?
Not right now.
Do you have any questions of him, of Rick? Okay, great. Okay. Do you have any questions about what we've done so far? Now, is there anybody in the third category? So, database and images and voices counterexamples? You got? Oh, great. Come on up. What's that? Okay, is that okay? You getting there? Okay, great. Okay, so again, you're like Jim. You have your examples over here on your timeline. And how are your counterexamples?
They're a voice.
Okay.
And they're all around here.
Okay, on your left side there.
Yeah.
Okay, and you're gesturing rather large. Are they quite loud?
Yes.
Okay. Get these little clues from these nonverbal behaviors. Some people will say, well, I got a little voice. And some people go, I got a voice. Sort of indicates something. Okay. Now, here's what I'd like you to do. And again, well, this is stepwise. The first thing I'd like you to do is listen to what that voice says about one particular counterexample.
Yeah, I got that already. Yeah.
Got that already, okay. And just as if someone was telling you something, you can make an image of what they're talking about. Can you make an image of what that voice is saying?
Oh, okay. Just a minute.
In other words, they're talking about some time when you messed up, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I want you to have an image of that time. So just like reading words in a book, you make an image of what the words are talking about, or you hear somebody telling you about something you did yesterday. You can make an image of what that is. Just make an image from what that voice says.
It's quite challenging. It's kind of gray, and it's here.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And it's quite close.
Okay.
It's indistinct.
But can you tell what the content is? Do you know what the voice is talking about?
Yeah, I know what the voice is saying.
Okay, so it's kind of dim and gray and indistinct, fairly close. Now, if you were to take that, and this is where I want you to not do anything until I'm done, just as I did with Rick. Take that counterexample image and maybe shrink it down a little bit, or do whatever necessary to make it less robust or less...
I need to move it away.
Okay, move it away. But eventually I'm going to want you to slip it in over on your timeline somewhere.
Okay.
And so that might have to make it smaller rather than farther away. Or
okay.
do whatever you need to do.
All right.
So that you can do that comfortably. And again, if anything goes a little haywire or something, just back up and we'll go forward again.
Yeah.
Okay?
Just a minute. It produces quite a strong reaction internally.
Okay. Now, if it's quite strong, maybe you need to back up and make some arrangements so that this can be comfortable, like making that image smaller or even dimmer yet.
Yeah.
Or whatever you need to do.
It's a little black dot now.
Little black dot. Well, I want you to have a little bit of content. I want you to be able to know what's in the picture.
Do I have to?
Some kind of knowledge of what's in the picture.
Okay.
Maybe slip it in a little black dot, and then maybe get a little tiny bigger so that you can see a little bit about what's in there.
All right. Actually, round's more comfortable. So, yeah, made it a bit bigger.
Okay. And is it on your timeline now?
No, I'll put it there.
Okay.
Okay.
Now, seeing it on your timeline with all the examples,
Mm-hmm.
does that make it a little easier?
Yeah, that's okay.
It's kind of a surprise, isn't it?
Mm.
Okay.
Sort of like a little round bead, and I've got all these other bright images.
Okay. And that looks fairly comfortable.
Yeah.
It's easier than just hearing that voice, right?
Oh, yeah.
That voice is no fun at all, right?
I get a string of complex equivalences.
Okay. Can you translate that into ordinary English?
Okay. It's like, okay, it's you messed up with this quality, which means that you're not this other quality, which means that, and it goes on
There's
like
a whole
that.
bunch of consequences.
And then it just means,
Forget it, huh?
yeah, I'm a bad person.
Yeah, right. Oh, good. That's the end of the line. Right? I'm a bad person. From there, where can you go? Okay, great. Now, listen to the voice again, and have it give you another counterexample.
Okay. I don't usually look for these. So. Okay.
And again, shrink that down to a small dot, a little round dot, and then move it over and slip it in wherever it belongs in your timeline.
Okay.
It has a place. And that looks fairly comfortable again. You want to try a third one?
Yeah.
Okay.
I like this.
And I hope you're noticing her nonverbals that are congruent with what I asked her to do. She's doing this little thing with her head and then finally kind of going over and putting it on the timeline and so on. It's nice to get all that confirmation of what's going on inside. Okay, you got 3 over there now. You could always put a few more in, or if you got 2 more, too many, you could take a few out. But what's it like now? Compare that with what you had before.
It's a relief.
It's a relief. Can you say more about it? What is it like having it originally, where you had the pure database and the voice over here that's yelling at you?
Well, I guess there was, I can get very high with that pure kind of quality. Like yesterday, I was really enjoying that. It is a little bit trancy. It's a little bit, there's probably a little question mark there somewhere about, is this really real? So there's a question mark about conviction.
In terms of the pure database?
Yes.
Yes.
So with this one there, with this one now, sorry, you're asking about the original one. And then it's like a polarity, because this voice comes in and then it crashes it down. It's almost like an either or.
Yes.
I'm
absolutely.
either in it fully or I'm...
Right. There's an inherent instability. When you have all your database of positive examples represented in one location and all the negatives in another, there's a real tendency to be one or the other. Pay attention to this or this. And since they're separated, it's hard to pay attention to them both at once. If they're integrated, then you can't do anything else but pay attention to them all at once. And you spoke about this voice essentially crushing and crashing, right? Yeah. Do the words manic depression have any meaning here? This is essentially how it goes. In manic, person is floaty and they're high and they're flying off the ceiling and everything's wonderful. When they're depressed, crash. Everything's terrible. And I don't mean that you're manic depressive, but it's the same kind of mechanism. You've got your tears now.
It's okay.
Well, I'd like to know about them, though. Can you say what they are? They're an important message for somebody here. Either for me or for you.
Well, it just, when you talked about that, it triggered a time when I was very depressed. Memory of that time.
And if you go back to that time, just keeping it at a distance.
Thank you.
Can you see that kind of dynamic going on?
Oh, it's
going
hell.
all the way to being a bad person and everything?
Absolute hell.
Yeah.
And for everybody else as well.
Yeah. No,
Because it's a self-feeding cycle. It's
Yeah.
like you can't possibly get out of it.
right.
Because every time you do, it's not true, it's not convincing enough, and
Right.
it's
The real
it's
pit.
a sabotage. It just comes into whatever climbing you do. Yeah.
Yeah. Sure. Thank you. You're thanking me too, aren't you? Yeah. Thank you very much for sharing that.
Are we done? You're
Do
leaving
you want to
me
do
with
more?
Yeah, I need to do something with it. Yeah, well,
Okay.
anyway, you've taught me
Okay.
how to do that. So
Well,
that's
I
really
think,
useful.
well, just pause for a minute. Now that you have this database with some of the counterexamples integrated, kind of go back to that.
Okay.
If you have that, are you in any danger of doing what you did before?
I don't think so.
I don't think so. I don't. Now, at the
I
same
don't think
time,
so.
there's another little piece we could do. Can you still hear this voice?
It's not as loud.
It's not as loud now.
I mean, when you say this voice, I kind of, when you say this voice, I still have a sense of these voices.
These voices, okay. You spoke in singular before, so I just used singular, but
Okay.
maybe there's several. Can you hear one of those voices now?
Not so loud.
Not so loud. So is it easier then to hear them?
Yes.
Is the tonality any different?
Softer.
Softer. So it makes it easier to hear what it has to say, right?
It's not so close.
Not so close. Okay, so it's more distant. And I would like you to explain to that voice what happened before. And ask for its positive intent, even though it sent you into depression at that time, a long time ago.
Yeah.
What is its positive intent?
Oh, it's very obvious.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Would you be willing to share?
Yeah, it's like I think it's like a caution, you know. Yeah, take notice of this occasion when you had that high expectation and you didn't quite, and you messed up.
Yeah.
And it's important to notice that because that involves other people and that involves learning and it gives you an opportunity to
So
learn.
there's some valuable information there.
Yeah.
Sure. Close your eyes for a minute. And thank it for providing that valuable information. And explain to it that you can make the best use of that valuable information when its voice is softer, or if a little farther away, a little gentler, right? And that if you do that, then it won't send you into that hole, that black hole that you went into before. And ask if it understands. I'd like to be sure that it understands that clearly.
Yeah.
Okay? And it has your best interests at heart. Right?
I know that.
Okay. Tell it that, though, that you know it. Because sometimes, communication gets a little interrupted and a little messy sometimes, particularly when voices end up yelling at people. It's like your parents, they started yelling at you. Communication probably didn't improve.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, one last thing. Ask the voice if it has any objection to presenting its information visually. And in the context of your positive examples. In other words, does it have any objection to having its information in visual form on your timeline, interspersed with your positive examples?
There doesn't seem to be one.
Okay. Okay, great. Do you have any comments for me?
No, except thank you.
Thank you very much. Do you have any questions? Yeah.
This polarity or the big separation between counterexamples and examples can be both visual and modality-wise?
Well, that's a question for me, right?
Well, either, yes, I suppose so.
It's more of a question for me, I think. If you have any question about her experience going through this, I'd like to take it now, and then I'll answer yours. Any questions? Okay, thanks very much. Let's see, let me give this back to you. Okay, that was very nice. Thank you. Now, let me answer your question. When you have a separation in the same modality, even if it's just side by side, there's a certain degree of separation. There's a certain possibility of attending to this or this. When the separation is greater in space, you have even more likelihood of going this or this. Okay? That's clear. Now, if you have this in a different modality, then the separation is even greater because it's in a whole separate modality. But I need to attend to you. Are you okay? What's going on? What's happening? Can you tell me? I want to make sure you're okay.
Okay, what seems to be happening is I just had this huge emotional response after that, which was it's really like the realization of how this works.
Yeah.
And becoming aware that it wasn't really necessary to, well, now that I know,
Yeah.
it wasn't necessary to live with that.
Kind of sad, isn't it? That you had to go through all that.
Thank you. And so it's like, I came, it's one of the things I came here for, really. And it's really exciting. I'm going to get excited in a minute.
Watch out.
About what I can do about it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And what you can do for others.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay, great.
Making it manageable and
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah. And there was another little thing that came in there just as I sat down was, why am I that old question of why? Why am I behaving like this? Because, yes, how can I be so dumb as to behave like this when I've got this new gift?
Mm-hmm.
So I thought, okay, what do I do with that? I take it down here and put it in here. Now I know what to do with it.
Great. Wonderful.
Which is terrific, yeah.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
So you're using it already.
Yeah, yeah.
Great.
I think doing it 3 times really helped.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to do a lot more, yeah.
Okay. Do you have any question of her experience? Yeah.
When you put it on your timeline with the other database, how does it change?
Oh, dramatically. I mean, here it was big and loud. Now moving it away has really helped, and it's soft, and so the dialogue has changed anyway. And so that's providing me with information anyway. That's shifted thanks to what Steve did. And the other part of it is that it's like a bead. The round bead, and it's dark.
Did the voice change to a bead, or the voice still there?
But so far I've taken 3 out. There's quite a lot in there.
Yeah, I mean when you take the voice.
Yes.
You change the voice to either.
I change it to a picture.
To an image.
I change it to an image and make it into a small bead. And then I put it into the timeline that I described yesterday. So I've got these bright, colorful movies of the other one, and it's in between.
I'm interested in the change from voice to image.
I just asked her to do that.
Yeah, I know, but what happened?
Okay, I heard the voice first, and then I moved it. I'm not sure what I did, but I followed the instruction and turned it into an image. And it
of the person of that voice, or it became an image?
It's an image that's sort of symbolic. It's representing that thing.
And then when you put it there, has no importance to you, or
it has an importance.
but it's melted in the other?
Not melting, no. not melting. It's like a reminder. It's a little caution there. Oh, okay. A little piece of information to remind me. I think, as Steve was saying before, it's like a reality check to remind me, oh yeah, I can go a little bit overboard with this quality. Just to remind me, yeah, it's okay. It's fine there. It's useful.
Okay, now let's get theoretical again. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, here's the generalization. The more the separation between the positive and the negative, either in distance, in location, or in representational system, the more the possible opportunity there is for noticing only one or only the other. It's an inherently unstable situation because your attention can go to this one or it can go to this one. And you see, when your attention goes away from the positive one, you not only lose the sense of the positive quality, whatever it was, but you go to its opposite. And that's what makes it particularly devilish, that you are now the opposite of your values. Here your values are a plus, plus, plus. Oh, it's great, wonderful, wonderful. Maybe a little floaty, maybe a little bit manic-y, but it's all positive. And then you flip, not just to lose this. That would be bad enough, to lose the sense of who you are. But to go to its opposite makes it far, far worse. So it's an inherently unstable situation. Yes?
You say the more separation, the more harder for us to notice it?
The more the separation is, the more the likelihood that you will notice one or the other. Yeah. Rather than both. When you have them integrated, whether it's visually, whether it's a bunch of voices in a chorus or something like that, the more you have it integrated, then you have to pay attention to both at once. Because here you got all these pluses, and you got some negatives and so on. Then you have to see it all at once. It's much more stable, it's much more real, and you don't have this problem of flipping from one to the other. Now, all of us have done this kind of thing. Is there anybody in here who's never felt like crap? All of us have done this at some time in our life. And hopefully something popped us out of it at some point and we got back to normal, whatever normal was. But the more the separation, the more difficulty is potential. Now, there's another thing that goes on here. If you have, let's think about a pure database, let's say. All positives, okay? I'll let you fill in the rest. This is an invitation to perfectionism. You have to always be perfect. You have to always be kind. Every context, blah, blah, blah. Whether you're exhausted, whether your mother just died, or whatever went on, you have to be this quality. And when you have this situation, you're vulnerable to the kind of thing that she mentioned, which is that when a counterexample comes in, you crash. Because it only takes one counterexample to wipe out this whole thing. Now, the mechanism of how you wipe it out is interesting. People have all sorts of ways. One, of course, is to take the negative and superimpose it on the positive. So now all you see is the negative. Maybe just one, or maybe 20, or maybe 40. So there are many, many ways technically to do this. One possibility is that on the other side of this positive one, on the other side here, are all the negatives. And this thing just spins on like a rotisserie, and it turns over, and now you got all the negatives. I mean, it's fascinating to actually ask people, well, how do you do this? And find out the immense variety of how you can switch from the negatives to the positives, or the positives to the negatives. Now, here's what I want you to do in the exercise. First, we'll take a break because we're just almost an hour. And then I want you to experience all of these. So if you had same modality and same location already, you had them integrated already, then I want you to separate them out, as I did with Jim, and then actually switch them into a different modality, just to experience what it's like. Because if you can experience what this is like, then when you're working with people, you have a lot more empathy and a lot more sensitivity to what they're doing and how they're doing it and what you need to do to get them out of it. If you had this one, then first go into a different modality, put your counterexamples into a different modality, and then switch them back here, and then finally integrate them. If you did this one, then you do what I did with Anne. First, you transform the counterexamples into the modality of the positive examples, and then, so now you're in this situation, and then integrate them and put them in this situation. So I want you to, each one of you, to experience all three of these. Any questions about what I want you to do? Yes.
And if they are the same, we change them to.
I want you to experience each of these. So wherever you start, find a way to experience briefly all of these. This one, and finally this one. End up with this one. Because this is the one that works best. You have them integrated. The negatives become much less negative. Notice, with Anne, when she first had that voice, it was a very painful expression on her face. She transformed it into an image. That helped a lot. It was still unpleasant. Then when she put it in with her others, suddenly it became much, much easier. This is one of the examples of seeing things in perspective. Those of you who are in my evening thing on perspective patterns, we're dealing with perspective patterns here. We're dealing with much more as well. But this is also a perspective pattern of seeing the errors, the mess-ups in the perspective of the successes, of the positive examples. Any questions about what I want you to do? I want you to experience each of these, at least briefly, and then make sure you end up with this one. Okay, let's have about a 10-minute break, and then about 15 minutes exercise, maybe 20 exercise, and do it mostly yourself. If you can do it with yourself, you can do it with anybody else. Then it's just words, because you have the experience, and all you have to do is convey the experience to somebody else. So do this in trios. First, go inside for 5 or 10 minutes. Make sure you can do all of these, and then come out and share.